It's a figure painting one this time, and you cannot have Christmas without the Doctor Who Christmas special. We're revisiting an old face. This is Matt Smith from, well, a while ago now. I've started it off, I've got it based, I've got it undercoated with a white because white is best for, you know, flesh colours and clothing and things like that. But what I am going to do is very quickly just do black, and I'm just using household paint here because there's no point in using expensive stuff, and I'm just going to get the base painted in properly. Because it's already got basing material on, I am watering down the paint a little bit so that it does sort of run into the crevices and act, I guess, a little bit more like an ink. Okay, that base can dry, and then I'll dry brush it and get onto the actual figure. Then it's a quick dry brush on that base just to finish it off. Right, I can start painting them properly now. Now that we are on to the actual painting, the first thing to do is get the lowest layer, which is generally flesh, and get those hands and the face covered in this is old GW bronzed flesh. And because I'm going to be doing the clothes at a later stage, we don't need to go too overboard about being careful. We can just kind of slap it on. Let that dry and we'll move on to something else. Now, one thing about Matt Smith's costume is it does have an awful lot of brown in it, or at least his earlier one does. So this is Tamiya dark yellow, and I'm going to be using this in two places. First off is his socks, and the second area is his shirt. Now that might actually be a wee bit dark for his shirt. I'm not sure yet, but we shall see. Now very quickly we'll move up onto the next colour, and this one is Tamiya brown. We're going to use that for his coat, and I'm just going to use a larger brush basically to block in the bulk of it. Then I'll swap to the smaller brush just to get those edges properly. Whew! And yet another brown. Darker one this time. And let's just get his shoes done. And even though it's not evident on the sculpting, his elbows do have leather patches on them, like that. And one more brown. This time it's the hair. And the good thing about all of these browns is that the next shade down can be used to highlight the darker one used above it, which is a big bonus. Alright, this paint's quite thin, so I am probably going to need a couple of coats of this one. Starting to look more like him already. Woohoo! Now that I've touched up the hair, what I am going to do is water down a wee bit of flesh wash, like so. And I'm just going to coat the whole model in that, because Matt Smith is quite pale, so we don't want too much of a shadow on his features, but we do want to give a little bit of depth to that clothing. And I'm not worried too much about going on to the trouser area because that is going to be getting done in a far darker colour. Right, that can dry for a little while and then I'll start working on highlights. Okay, painty mixy time. Now, his trousers are quite a dark blue and I don't have anything that is appropriate, so let's get a few splots of black in there. And this is the equivalent of ultramarine blue. Okay, let's see what one drop of that looks like. Yeah, that is pretty dark as a base. I'll just make sure I've got it mixed properly. Yeah, I think I'm okay with that, because by the time I've got highlight on, that will come up quite nicely. Yeah, I'm good with that colour. And again, larger brush just to quickly block in the big areas, and then swap to the smaller brush just to finish it off. Yeah, he looks far better when he's got pants on. Right, while that's drying, let's move on to other colours. I am going to do the flesh first and just pick out the highlights on those raised areas. Make sure I get a decent highlight on his chin because, well, if you know, you know. And I am definitely not painting eyebrows on him. Again, this is an unfortunate thing about Matt Smith, that he does appear to have a distinct lack of eyebrows. Okay, highlights on the hair. Those are very subtle because he does have very dark hair. Okay, the jacket. I'm going to lighten that up. And this time I am going to go for more of a dry brush on this rather than painting it in. Yeah, that's coming down nicely. The shirt is a little bit too dark, so we do need to do some work on that. And this is bone white. Okay, before that blue dries, let's get a wee splotch more. Come on. There. Mix that down. And we'll quickly do the highlights on the trousers. Right, and they are again very subtle, but that is done. I'm on to the final three colours. Go me! Right, shining silver for that sonic screwdriver. Right, and that will have to dry a little bit before I put the final coat on that area. But it would not be this Doctor without his iconic bow tie, because bow ties are cool. Yep, that's him. Alright, actually one thing I will do, because I've just noticed that some of the ink has gone down a wee bit onto the base, so I'll just take the opportunity to touch that up. It is always one of the hazards you get when using a wash. Yeah, that was the only area just there. So a bit of black. Alright, I touched up that base off camera, added the grey highlight, and this is the very final part, and this is old green wash, and we are just going to add the last little bit onto his Sonic, like so. And that's him all done. Woohoo! And remember, of course, there is loads more of Vlogmas to go through. We've still got, another 22 days. So please keep yourself off the naughty list and subscribe now, and I'll see you tomorrow.